video. In today's video, it's the world's first AIO bubble hash machine. Procedures, how to run this machine very specifically. If you don't have this machine, then you need to follow the directions from whoever you bought your bags from. I bought my bags from the Bubble Bag Dude. This is not a sponsored video. I just picked that bubble bag. So I have combined or altered the bubble bags directions on how to use their product to run in this machine. The biggest difference between this machine and the Bubble Bag Dude's, just the washer and the bucket system, is the insulated situation. So this is all insulated. Watch the build video here. Watch the tuning video here. Watch the first run video here if you just want to laugh at something, because this is really where the information is on how to run this correctly. That video, don't just watch how it runs. Don't listen to me talking. So this is all insulated, and what that does is that increases your working time basically indefinitely. If you have enough ice, this thing can just sit forever, really. So the only big divergence from the Bubble Bag Dude's directions and the directions on how to run this is the amount of water you use, okay? In his system, because there's no insulation, you use a little bit of water because you don't want to warm up your ice and melt your ice, right? In this system, you have more water because it's cold, kept cold, and you're processing it. Okay, so let's just start off at the beginning. First and foremost, when you prepare your crop for this, you want to leave all your leaves on there that have trichomes on them, and you want to take all the stem out and give yourself a lot of surface area. Now, you want to run this thing at a temperature range of between 45 Fahrenheit and 70 Fahrenheit. That's your sweet spot. Ideally, around the high 50s, low 60s is where it's going to be best, just for your own personal comfort and the ratio of how stuff's melting. If it gets too cold, you could freeze up and have problems. If it gets too warm, you might run out of ice and have problems. So I make up 2 5-gallon buckets of ice cubes, plus all the 10 ice cube making trays I have, and those are all full. So I have 10 plus gallons of ice cubes ready to go before I even start this, okay? Now, I start to run the RO into here the night before I want to run. So I've picked out a day that's going to be cool enough. Then I'll go, okay, I'm going to run this tomorrow. I will fill this up the night before, okay? Now, you don't want to completely fill up max water right from the start, because you're constantly adding ice and you're constantly rinsing down the bag that you're taking out of here with the RO. So you're going to be adding water throughout the process, so you don't want to just fill the whole thing up right from the start, okay? About one of these, full, a little below full, is perfect. You can run some into here. Okay, in here, I put about 3 or 4 inches of ice in the bottom, okay? Big ice cubes. Crank your freezer down. Get those ice cubes as cold as they possibly can be. If your ice cubes are 30 degrees versus your ice cubes are 15 degrees, there's going to be a huge difference in the amount of thermal energy you're putting in here. And your goal is to keep everything cold, okay? So you put the layer of ice at the bottom, put something to keep your drain plug from getting plugged with ice. I put a little utensil over it just to keep things from blocking it up. Now, when you're putting your bags in here, I don't put the bags all the way down to the bottom. I start the bags up quite a ways. I probably leave like, maybe 8 to 10 inches in the bucket of open space between the first bag, right? So the first bag is, right about there. These are the fill bags. These are the bags you fill and put in here. Okay, so I bought 2 of these because it's easier to have one ready to go, so you don't have to completely do everything into one bag because it's sopping wet, And I actually keep these in the freezer while I'm working with them. I'll load them up, and I load them no more than half. If I tested loading them full, and loading them full is not good for a few different reasons. Number one, you're probably not going to get as good of extraction out of it if it's full. Number two, you plug up the machine with a ton fast so it doesn't run as smoothly. So you end up waiting for water to filter through the bags. So what worked better was filling this halfway, putting in about 4 of these big ice cubes in the bag, 4 or 6 in there with it, tie it up and everything, put it in there, and basically every time I put in a new bag, I put in like about 8 new ice cubes, right? These big ice cubes, right? So now everything's in there. You turn it on for a cycle. It's 15 minutes. It runs its 15 minutes. Per the bubble bag dude instructions, you let it sit for another 10 minutes. Now, in his context, that 10 minutes is doing one thing. In this context, that 10 minutes is doing something else. What that 10 minutes is letting you have time for the stuff in here from the previous run to filter down through the bags and then be collected so you can pump it back up into here. Because that's one of the bottlenecks you want to try to avoid by having enough water in the system to where you have your appropriate water, which is in the window here. Then you have what's filtering through the previous wash, and then you have below that what's already filtered through that's waiting to go back up into here. So, and if you put all the water in there first, like I said, you're gonna have too much water by the end, depending on how long you go. And like I said, you can go as long as you have ice. So I've never used, like I have 2 5-gallon buckets. The second 5-gallon bucket I've never gone into. It's like the backup. It's like the emergency. It's in a different freezer. It's if whatever goes wrong and you need to just keep stuff cold, I've got a whole 5-gallon bucket of ice just waiting. Typically, this probably uses about 1 5-gallon because there's some left in a 5-gallon bucket, and I had the 10 ice cube trays full that I've used during that process as well. And by the time I'm all done, I typically have, about that much left in the 5-gallon bucket. So that's ice you're going to be adding. You're going to be filtering the water to rinse the bags. Okay, so now it's sat 10 minutes. You drain it. You pump the water back up here. I run each one of these bags twice. So I fill it halfway full, I put the ice cubes in there, I put it in there, I run it a cycle, 15 minutes, let it set for 10 minutes, I drain it. I fill it back up, I let it run for 15 minutes, I let it sit for 10 minutes, I drain it. I take this bag out. As I'm taking this bag out of the top here, I have this hose and I'm rinsing. I'm rinsing this bag off, I'm rinsing this bag off, I'm rinsing it until all the foam is off it. And then I squeeze the bag because you want to keep the liquid you have in here. You don't want to be dumping water out. So squeeze this, wring it out in here. Okay, boom. Fill it up again. Get your next bag. Take the ice cubes from this bag and put them into the next bag. Have a little dump that you can dump this and all that's in there. And that's fertilizer. Don't throw that away. Okay, so now you've run this thing, you know, and it's really quite unlimited. It can potentially take longer, but if everything is going at a nice rate, in other words, only half a bag, it only accumulates so fast at that rate. So the water is able to escape. I use the bags that they have mesh, they're just 100% mesh. I use 100% mesh bags. I keep the bags in this big bin so they don't get crumpled up as much, so they go in the bucket easier. You've run everything you're gonna run. You're done. This is the washout bucket. And the way I do it is a lot of people, you'll see them, they have a high pressure spray thing and they'll spray down, spray, squirt, whatever, to get it to go down to the bottom, okay? That's why I put this in here, but honestly, I don't use this much. What I do use is a little spoon, or a big spoon actually, and I take the bag, I gather the bag, I get it up here, now it's gathered, and depending on what number it is, there's like 8 of them or something like that. You dip it in, dip it in, dip it in. Use the spoon to fling the water up around the bag. And it actually works quite well because when you think about it, you know, this isn't the bag, I'm just using this as an example. Like pretend like this is 8 of the filter bags, right? Your stuff's going in here and it's going into the bag, in through this way, this way, this way. So if you throw the water back up over this side, it's pushing it out of the mesh and going down. It's actually super easy. And I'll do that depending on the bag, what bag it is, anywhere from 1 to 4 times. So I'll go here, I'll dunk. Once it's all accumulated and pretty much dry, I take it over to a 5-gallon bucket and I put it over the 5-gallon bucket and I scoop it out. Okay, and then I fold it back up and I come back over here and I put the bag back in and I dip it, dip it, dip it, dip it, and I fling the water around, till it all condenses. And like I said, I'll do that 1 to 4 times depending on what bag level it is. Then I'll immediately take the bag and turn it inside out. When I'm done taking the extracts out of it, I'll turn it inside out, spray it off with a hose, hang it up to dry. Then on to the next bag, okay? Go down through the bags once you've got everything out of there. And now the 25 micron food grade bag is the biggest bottleneck in this system. It just is. There's nothing you're gonna do about it, right? So I've left that bag in here overnight with the drain open, and there's ice in the morning, so that all sat there and remained cool, but was able to drain out overnight. And I get up in the morning, I mean, we're talking like these bags are much bigger than this, but you know, that 25 micron bag can have like this much water in the thing. So, I mean, it can take a long time for it to get out. And I've done that and it works good. As long as you have enough ice in here, it stays cold. This is all full of insulation. So it really stays cold, right? Like I showed temperature in the first run video, okay? All right, so now you've cleaned everything. All your bags are out, you're done. Now it's time to clean this thing. And believe you me, you want to clean it right when you're like the next day. Don't let it sit. You can potentially ruin the machine with bacteria. Okay, so what I do is I use paper towels and isopropyl alcohol to wipe down any sticky surfaces, clumps. You'll see some of the concentrates will get stuck on this. I mean, you know, it's just the price of doing business. The inside of this gets very sticky, like most of the inside of this needs to be wiped down, okay? So now I've wiped everything down and all the obvious stuff is all gone, right? Then what I do is I fill this up with normal water, not the RO, because this takes forever. So just normal water, I fill this up, and then I put a smidge of, okay, this is a brewer's, and I mean, like a couple drops in that thing full. Just a couple drops, not much at all. Okay, and then I'll run the cycle. Okay, and then I'll run it through all the pipes and run it through everything, and I'll drain it, and then I'll fill it up with clear water, and I'll rinse all that sandy stuff out of there with just normal tap water. Then I'll put a few inches of the RO in there, and I'll spin that around to get, and then I'll rinse, basically I'm rinsing out the tap water with RO, and I do the same process of running it through all the pipes and turning the pump on and everything else, okay? Now, if you're thinking about building this machine, put your drain at the lowest point you can put it. That'll save you this next step. What I have to do is take my air compressor and go and air compress out the bottom, because unfortunately when I built it, my drain, so I've got this water sitting in the pump that needs to be blown out. Not ideal. I wasn't even thinking drain when I was building this. That was something I had forgot to put in, and I was like, oh, afterthought. So put the drain going, even possibly straight out the bottom would probably be the best to, not have to blow it out with the air compressor. Okay, because you want the thing to sit dry. I just ran it a couple days ago, and you can, I don't know if this will show up on camera, but you can see there's still a little bit of condensation on the inside of these pipes after a couple days, right? And they've all been open and all that. It's not ideal, but the less that you have, the better. So, okay, and then that's basically it. So, all right, like, subscribe, peace.
Thank you for watching my video.